Okay, let's go to our main topic. And here I'll just say a couple of words before we launch. You can be sure I don't bring something to your attention and I feel a sense of responsibility when there is 100. Right now, there's 178 in the room. So 79 is here moving up. And there is a heavy responsibility to bring something that I think will make a difference. If it has really surprised me, if it's something that I thought, oh, that's really valuable, and I for a while use it in my own life, then I think that's definitely worth sharing. So I encourage you to not look at it as, oh, it's maybe half an hour, 20 minutes with Fayez, let's go. These topics condensed and delivered in this way can be very, very helpful if you pay attention. But don't leave them and forget about them after the webinar. Try to incorporate it in your life in the next maybe 2 to 3 weeks, usually 3 weeks. Turn it into a habit. And once it's a habit, it's part of your life. So this can be a very simple topic. For some, it may seem a little bit difficult to get into. But I want to make sure we don't confuse what I'm about to cover with positive thinking. I don't dislike positive thinking, but I don't find it that useful. So make sure you don't think, yeah, I've had something like that. Has to do with positive thinking. That's not what we are talking about. Let's talk about rewiring. Some of you are familiar if you're into anything to do with circuit boards and electronics. You can do all sorts of things using wires and shorting one point to another. That works very well in circuit boards, but the human mind is so complex. We don't even begin to think how the neurons fire together, connect, and produce effects. So it may seem impossible to rewire the mind, and yet there is a way. And I hope to cover it broadly here, and I hope you will take it on board and try it for yourself. So the mind, the only way to access it from an outside is through perception. Perception really not only affects you day to day, it also affects how your mind is structured. And the best way to appreciate perception is through framing. And since sometimes words don't communicate that easily, let's see what I mean. Nobody is confused about what's a frame, right? So that's a frame down in the left corner. And now if I put something in the frame, now the blue is the frame, right? Any guess what's in the frame?
Elephant.
Very good, very good. You can tell we don't need AI. We got a lot of human AIs working very well. Okay, so in that frame, it depends how small I make it or shift it. You may not guess. At the moment, it's possibly the wrinkles big enough for you to guess. So the current perception through that frame, some of you guessed it's an elephant. Maybe some didn't, and if it had been a smaller frame, you would know what you're looking at. Okay? Now, we want to be able to reframe something so that it is seen in a different way, different light, different perspective. So the new perception is what we call reframe. So when you reframe it, there is no confusion what we are talking about. So just frame, reframe, frame, reframe. Everything you will meet in life will constitute of the way you've been habitually framing it. And our intention in this discussion is to see how do you reframe it. So you typically face a problem, and usually the problem is because of the way you're framing it. Reframe it, you get a solution. That sounds very simple, but it's not that complicated to see when we go through examples. Sometimes only example communicate, no matter how good the English or bad, it doesn't do it. So Current perception goes to new perception through reframing. And that's really how we want to try and rewire our minds. Now you might think, I don't know if I get that. So I'm going to show you examples you use today, all of you. Maybe consciously, maybe not so consciously. So, anybody uses that or aware of this saying, customer is always right? Now, who thinks this is absolute truth? Who disagrees? Thinks, no, that's not really true. I just need one person to tell me why it's true or why it's not true.
Like a customer is always first, but not right. This is my perception.
Oh, okay. So
nobody can be always right. Yeah.
Is a priority, but not right. It's very true. Customer actually is almost always wrong. You know, that may sound strange. Customer says, I want it tomorrow. That tomorrow is not real. It can't happen. But he thinks if he shouts loud enough, argues enough, he can force it. But why do we say the customer is always right? It isn't saying literally that he's right. But imagine you are at the checkout counter in Carrefour and you start maybe arguing with the cashier. She's been trained, the customer is always right. So she'll smile and say, okay, sir. Yes, sir. Why? That's been very smart. Customer always right avoids big arguments that gets nowhere. So when we do it in service, we do it in interaction, it just saves us a lot of hassles. Just accept that reality. It's not true, but adopting it makes life easy. What about this one? This is maybe always in management books. In every crisis, there's danger, but there's also opportunity. So the crisis is depicted in the Chinese language with these two symbols. One of them is danger, one is opportunity. Do we have any example of that?
As the one we discussed the day before about the competition.
Right.
So there are threats, but there are opportunities as well.
Very true. Let me tell you something that is, if you like, very current. The crisis in Gaza. It's all very clear to us that it is a huge crisis. Human suffering is incalculable, but the danger is clear. The killing is clear, but there's also an opportunity. What do you think the opportunity there?
To resolve this maybe for once and all.
But maybe it opens the door for a resolution. Maybe resets expectation. All kind of things. There's an opportunity now. And I think, if you like, this is what's behind the whole issue. When you say it's always dark before the dawn, anybody ever witnessed that? I don't think many people wake up before the dawn, but who said yes?
Me, Fayez, Sohaib.
Sohaib, carry on. Sohaib, why is it dark? Is it true that it's darkest before the dawn?
Not necessarily. I cannot say that, but it can be. It's like when things improve before that, it might be in the lowest ebb. This is what I feel. Yeah.
So this is one of the features of reframes. Don't think that it has to be true or logical, as long as it solves a problem. So when things get really bad for you, one thing after another, and this fails and this goes, and the nature of life, since we are here, we are living, breathing, happy. That means it wasn't dark, and then more dark. At some point, it turned to dawn. So it's a good one, a refreshing one, that don't worry. And even just before it turns to dawn, it's very dark. What about this one? Don't get mad, get even. Why do we say that? Because if you just get mad, you make life difficult for yourself. If you reframe it, get even, then you start to plan, okay, somebody wronged me. How do I fix it? How do I make it right? It changes again the frame. We also say every cloud has a silver lining. All these are somebody clever thought of a reframe, which allows you to think clouds are, especially, we are happy to see clouds here in UAE, but in the West, if it's cloudy, it usually means it's going to rain and it's going to ruin the day for a lot of people. Here we welcome the cloud, but every cloud has a silver lining, is a reframe saying it's not all bad. Okay, so let's just look at the fundamentals so you take those on board before we delve into some examples. So we already said it hasn't got to be true or logical. Don't argue with it. It's just a reframe. The mind doesn't distinguish between something fictitious and something true. If you're afraid of a snake and then discover that it's a rope, the fear was real, and then later the kind of relaxed mindset is also real. The mind, whatever it perceives, it reacts to. And all we care about reframe, does it work? Does it produce results? If it does, it's a good reframe. If it doesn't, throw it in the bin. More fundamental. Anything that you face that is a problem for you, reframe, keep reframing and see which one works for you. Because if it works, gives you peace of mind, it makes you more positive, makes you more proactive. So don't think there is one perfect solution. Just keep trying. One will work for you. The good one will stick. The other ones will just fade away. So it's not like you will take them on board and get lumbered with 10 reframes. Only one will stick. Okay? And usually anything that really made you unhappy, happy, comfortable, it involves an emotional element. The more emotion, the more likely it will rewire your brain. So don't be afraid if something is really causes an emotional experience. Those are the most likely to rewire the brain. Okay, so let's start with the first, just examples. Now, alcohol is a beverage. Now, if you want to quit alcohol, you don't want to call it a beverage. I find that a lot of the invites I get, it says they will serve beverages. They don't say alcoholic, but they use beverage to get away with it. But is alcohol a beverage? And if I decide I think I'm having a bit too much, maybe I need to cut back on alcohol or stop, then a reframe, what about calling alcohol is a poison? Some of you say, no, wait a minute, don't get carried away. It's not a poison. I don't mind the odd drink here and there. And maybe true. No, we said it doesn't have to be true. You're trying to trigger a reframe. So is it really? No, maybe. Actually, the more I read about it, the more it is a poison. But sometimes we take a lot of poison stuff because we like to. That's good. But if you want to quit, think of it as a poison and involve some emotion. Who wants to put poison in their body? And if you go that way, you will find yourself, every time you want to drink, it's a poison. No, let me not bother. Or I won't get carried away if I'm not going to stop altogether. This one, the word, don't let them intimidate you. Some of you will be familiar with that term. Some will not. Let me explain it because we all suffer it. And I mean all, with no exceptions. Cognitive dissonance only means who you think you are and how you act are, if you like, in conflict. So what do I mean here? Let's say I think I am a calm, collected, logical, decent human being, right? That's how I like to project and I like other people to see me as. And then I find myself suddenly in a discussion with a colleague, with somebody, even on the street, right? And I am like that. I got angry, I lost control, etc. The mind says, I think I am a very sane, rational, calm person, and I catch myself mouthing off some insulting things, shouting. The mind doesn't like embarrassment, doesn't like this conflict. That's why it's a dissonance. Dissonance means two conflicting facts. I have my idea of who I am and how I have behaved. What do you think the mind will do in that case? Mind sees, I think of myself as, even this one, I think myself as a generous person, open-minded, open-hearted, and yet reluctantly don't give maybe 5 dirhams to the server or to petrol station attendants, whatever. And yet I have plenty of money. So what is this? Thinking I'm generous, I have plenty, but I am stingy on the other side. This is another conflict. There's a dissonance here. How do you think the mind deals with that? The mind sees, if I face it, being wrong in how I behave or what I said in an argument is embarrassing. The mind doesn't like embarrassment. So it does something very, clever. It goes into word salad. What I mean by word salad? Let's say you've shouted. Don't we say, this guy is an idiot. He said this and this, and he drove me crazy, and you will justify like hell so that it doesn't have to face the fact that there is a conflict. You think you're rational and you're behaving irrationally. The mind will find an excuse. So the best of all is to recognize that we have such a thing, okay, and fear is the cause of it. Once you frame embarrassment causes fear, fear causes the dissonance, reframe it. Anytime you get silly like that, it's the fear arising in me. That's what's causing the problem. Okay, who faced this situation? Stuck in a long queue or in a traffic like a car park. Now, usual frame, oh my God, I'm standing here, wasting my time, getting nowhere. How would you reframe that? You can have that frame. What would be a more healthy frame or reframe? I know most people will get their phone out, right? And start the browsing.
It happened to me a couple of times in the past 2-3 weeks, maybe actually 5, 6, 10 times.
Oh, okay.
The first 2 times I was actually blowing my head. I could not handle it. I felt really stuck. But then after it happened many times and I was not happy with it, I decided to see it as an opportunity to meditate, to relax, to make some phone calls, to have some time just to sit. It's very hard for me to do still, but at least I understood, okay, here's a time I can actually chill out and relax.
Yeah, very true. So it's time to practice breathing, posture, meditate. In this frame, I'm no longer upset, angry, impatient. There's nothing waste of time. We all have to live our time if you reframe it. So let's take some success and failure reframes, okay? What if you go to the office? I don't know if it's happened to you. It has certainly happened to me. You go, and from the start of the day, every interaction or bit of news is negative. Either you lost a deal, or somebody's annoyed, upset at you, or negative email. Has anybody faced that where some days seems to be just one after the other, everything looks negative? Okay? So if that happens to you, it's depressing, right? But then that's another reframe. What doesn't kill you make you stronger, right? So you take it on, okay, I've been tested. I've been tried and tested. That's a much more better frame than, oh, why me? Why is it all dumping on me? What's wrong with today? Is it Black Friday? Although Black Friday these days is a big discount day, but why is this happening? I have found some people use a really interesting reframe, and that is, the universe owes me. Yeah, let me explain that. The life and the universe has a balance. You cannot throw it, let's say you throw dice. It cannot come 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. How many times? At some point, it has to give you different than 1. So if you had so many bad news or bad things going, at some point, for the balance, you have something positive will happen. So you might think, okay, never mind, bad day, either this afternoon or tomorrow will be a better day, because that's how the universe works. If you want to reframe a lot of things, now I'm just going to go, these are quick examples. Don't say, I'll try to do. If you reframe it, I will do. The power of that is amazing. And I've seen people, I will do it if it kills me. When I hear that, I hear a really committed person, and the result will come. What if you say too big? I don't know where to start. I don't know if I can start. A good reframe would be, what's the smallest thing that I can do that will move me forward? Don't try and do the whole thing. Find something you can start, because the power of actually beginning to act is unbelievable, but you have to act. What if you're always stumbling? But look at you. I mean, I'm looking at the pictures in front of me. You're all successful in your own ways. So if you say to yourself, I fail at 90%, and yet the 10% is enough. I am where I am because of that 10%. So don't focus your frame or your mind on the 90%. That's the law of the universe. You're not going to have it all going your way. Anxiety and boredom. What if your frame is, I'm anxious, I feel troubled? What is that? How can you reframe that?
I'm excited.
Instead of I'm anxious, I'm excited. Is that you, Satish? I'm trying.
Yes.
All right. So that could be, yep, I'm anxious. You can reframe it, I'm excited. Or if you want to see why you're anxious, you can reframe it. I'm living in the future. The future hasn't arrived. I'm living in it and making my life hell. Oh, this might go wrong. Oh, they may say this. Oh, this will not work out. Stop living in the future. If you're in the present time, as Satish says, I'm excited, we'll solve it. What about I am bored with my life, with my house, with my family, with myself, whatever? How would you reframe that? I guarantee you, if you choose this reframe, I mean, there are many, many reframes of that, but if you choose this reframe, you can never be bored. Who can suggest, I'm bored?
It's time for me to do something new.
It's time for me to do something new. And when you do something new, you're risking what? Embarrassment. Because when you do something new, things can go wrong. So if you are bored, trust me, you cannot be stretching yourself, doing something that embarrasses you, because you're outside of your comfort zone. You cannot be bored if you're stretching. What about criticism? Nobody likes criticism. It's like a dagger to the heart. Anybody here enjoys criticism? Don't think so. How would you deal with criticism? You hear somebody said so-and-so about you or so-and-so. Usually, whenever somebody communicate criticism, I always, in my mind, think you are so immature. It's the last thing you should be communicating. But let's say you come these days on Twitter, X, whatever, you can be criticized like anything. Trolls really criticize you. How would you reframe that?
Good morning, Fayez. Wherever somebody says something, it's mainly about him. It's not about you. So it's feedback that you can use to understand who the person is behind the words or the...
Very valid. Yes. So you could say it's a chemical soup. This is a reframe. And their head. Why? What's it to do with me? He's got problems. It's something cooking in their head. The chemicals aren't working very well, and he starts spouting rubbish. Why do I need to be involved in that, believe it, and let it spoil my day? It's the soup in their head. Good luck to them. I'm not I'm not playing. How about judging self or other people? What do you think? If you hear somebody says to you, some people are bad or something much worse than that, this is very kind of benign, how would we reframe that?
And they have different thought process than mine.
Okay.
Not necessarily bad. Yeah.
Okay. Somebody else spoke?
I didn't expect that from you.
I didn't expect that from you. Okay. But let's face it, I didn't expect that. Obviously, you now start judging them. You fall into a possible trap there. But if you say, we are all flawed, before you judge another, nobody is perfect. That reframe takes the, and you don't have to even say it to anyone, but just takes the edge of judging others and yourself, especially yourself. If you do a mistake, if you do something silly, well, we're all flawed. I'm a human being. Not as an excuse, but that's the reality. I'm getting forgetful. I had somebody come to me recently and say, I'm a bit worried, I'm getting forgetful. How would you reframe it? I can let me tell you, as you get older, you will get forgetful, but that is, it has a different reframe. You know, the mind is incredible. As you accumulate so much experience and knowledge, it seems to be, as you get older, it has to make space for new experience and new knowledge, and it disposes, or at least pushes to old memories, a lot of things. But if you're getting forgetful, a good reframe, and it's a true reframe, I need to be more attentive. When you do something on automatic, you don't even know, say you're driving a car, how did you get from A to B? But if you're attentive, you will know. If you go into the kitchen and you forget why you went to the kitchen, you know, if you're attentive, that would not happen. So many things, attention is the key, has nothing to do with your memory. This one will appeal to anybody who is looking to find a partner, a spouse. A lot of people manage your time very well. And the real reframe that is much more effective in life is don't manage your time, manage energy. Time is actually meaningless, while energy is tangible. And if you manage energy, you will get places. If you manage time, you might be faster, slower, etc., but you will not change anything. So let's say you're looking for a partner. Now, I am willing to bet most of you will think the lady on the right is the pretty one, or more pretty. Any disagreement there? Natarajan is shaking his head vigorously. Are you looking for someone? No. Okay. But if you're looking for energy, who do you think will give you more happiness in your relationship?
You, it is from our side.
Yeah, but actually you could see this lady here has the more energy. This one knows she's beautiful and doesn't have to do much. This one is lively. So go for the energy, you'll end up with a better partner. Don't go for looks and so on. Managing time. Somebody says, I went to the gym for an hour. Is she in the gym? No. So she's managing time. I spent an hour in the gym. This one is managing energy, actually doing it, and she's getting the benefit. So always, whenever trying to think, so much is in our literature about time. Time is really not a substance you can do much about. Now, we're nearly finished. Now, if you want to turbocharge your reframing process, there are only two factors. The first one involves some emotion. So like we say, alcohol is a poison. If you have, whether it's hate, happiness, fear, disgust, if you involve the emotion, it turbocharges it, makes it sticky, makes it happen. And you makes it likely to stay with you. And repetition. Don't think, okay, that makes sense. Everything Fayez says makes sense. But tomorrow I forget about it. Just stick with it for a week. Ideally 3 weeks. That's when it becomes really part of your psyche. But 1 week, it will do it. And I always, when I have something I really want to adopt, I put an elastic band on my wrist. And every time I have a frame that's the problem, I pull the elastic band. It gives me a little sting on my wrist. And then I think, reframe. And then I'll do it that way. So repetition and emotion really help. With that, I'm going to finish and ask you to please rate and comment. Thank you very much. Have a great day.